Hey guys, and welcome to day 5 of the Make an EP in 30 days. So today we're going to go through creating and organizing your presets and gathering the sounds for your style of music. And this is going to really help you focus on what's needed and get rid of what's not needed to move to the next step. So on your PDF, if you go to the second page, it says choices. Too many choices lead to overwhelm and procrastination. And this is the biggest challenge for music makers, is when you're getting started especially, but even people that have been doing this for a long time, it's really easy to get distracted by new synths, new plugins, hundreds, thousands of different presets, tons of different free effects, VSTs, you name it. It can be pretty overwhelming thinking that you need to know every one of these things so that you could pick the exact perfect right thing. And that's really the wrong approach. And it's pretty simple to put together a basic toolbox that'll allow you to move to the next stage in your songwriting and get things done a lot faster. So that's what we're going to be covering mostly today. On the next page, once again, Ableton gives you a wealth of choices, but your job is to pick the ones that are actually going to bring your music where you want it to go and disregard everything else. It's so easy to get lost in tutorials and so many other avenues, forums and Facebook groups and whatever. And everyone's got a different opinion on what you should be using, what's cool, and you're constantly getting inspired by someone who's doing something really interesting or neat or shows you a new technique in Ableton or in music production in general. The problem is, as cool as that is for them, it's probably not going to benefit you and very likely can take you off track from your own music and your own musical goals. So you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're trying to make before you do any searching or browsing through music forums and things like that. That way you can go, okay, that's cool, but I don't need it right now. I'm going to move on. So that's what I encourage you to do, is really learn how to focus on just what you need and put aside all the other gadgets and tricks that right now will end up distracting you. So on the next page, should be page 4 on your PDF, pick wisely. So I recommend that you listen to DJ mixes in your style of music and kind of take notes on the common sounds that make up that style of music, things that you're hearing throughout a mix of a certain style, things that really grab your attention. And then what you want to do is come into Ableton and try to get as close as you can with the presets that Ableton makes available to you. So you're going to want to listen for kicks, drums, pads, atmospherics, lead sounds, and not really listen for just cool sounds. Listen only for sounds that fit your style, like I had mentioned before. Now, you may need to tweak the sounds a little bit or add effects or whatever to get what you want, but using presets is a good way to start in building your sound palette. Okay, so if I go over here, I've just got a mix by a popular DJ. So if I were looking for kind of tech house, I'd find a mix here. This one seems to be pretty popular. Not that that should necessarily matter to you. Then you just kind of go through and listen to what the mix sounds like overall. So already you're hearing like a lead sound, a bass sound, kick drum, snare, kind of arpeggiation. So these are things that are already maybe getting in your head. And of course, just pick the ones that kind of inspire you. You know, don't feel like you have to go in a certain direction that's not your style, but what you're trying to do is hone in on the sounds that inspire you. So So there you got similar sounds. You got that kind of dirtier bass tone. So these are things that you might be listening for that you would like to emulate with your presets. And so forth. So as you listen through, you kind of get a bigger picture of that sound you're going for, which I think is a much quicker approach than browsing song after song after song that might not be as cohesive. Listening to someone who professionally put a number of songs together to kind of create a certain vibe, I think is a very good way to get yourself started in developing your sound palette. So that's where I would go first. And then the next thing that I would do is I'd kind of come over to my instruments. For example, yeah, my analog, so maybe bass sounds here. And you know, it's probably not going to have the perfect sound, but it can get you closer. And you could obviously go through a couple different instruments to search, but anything that kind of grabs your attention that you think might be usable, you could save. So some of these don't have audio, but if you check down here, a lot of these do have audio samples. So that's the first thing that I want to do just because it makes it quick. It's kind of a big sound, but it's kind of got that big reverby sound. We didn't really hear that in the mix. That might kind of sound good and dirty if I play that sound lower. So what I'll do is I'll just add that real quick and then continue to listen. This might be good for like a deeper note, kind of layered with the thicker bass sound. Let me just drag that to a new track here. And so forth. So these are the types of things that I would do. I would create a drum rack. Oh, once again, I better drag it in to make a new track. Yeah, so we got an empty drum rack here, so I could go through some of the samples that it's got. Type in kick. And now I could kind of scroll through the sounds that I like. So that might be cool. That might be good. And you kind of get where I'm going with this. You could do this with snare sounds and hi-hat sounds. So you're quickly putting together your palette of sounds that are kind of inspiring you. And remember, you can take this further, adding effects and EQing and doing all those things. But this is kind of step one of just finding sounds that you think you might be able to kind of manipulate into your style of music. So let's go over to the next page here. So the next page is grouping, and just like what I was talking about, you might want to add certain effects to the sound. So let's say this sound here. And I just want to get this single drum hit here. There, so I'm just playing that sound there. Cool. But maybe I kind of want to tweak the sound a little bit, so I'll go into my effects, and we'll get more into how to use effects and different things like that. I'm just kind of giving you an overall picture here. So I'll pop that in because we want to affect the individual sound and not necessarily the whole kit. So maybe make it a little snappier. And once again, you could go back to your mix and listen to the sounds and kind of get in touch with the tone that you're going for. I might add a little saturation just to dirty up the sound a little bit. All right, so maybe that's what I want there, right? So now what you would do is with this group, and in this case it's, I believe, yeah, it's within the group, so you're fine. But if you had something like this, right? Obviously this sound's probably not the right sound, but let's just say that it is. And let's say we EQ it and add a bit of erosion to it. Dirty it up a little. And let's say we like that. Now what we want to do is we want to group this. So we would highlight all these, Command G. That would group this sound. And then we would open up this very first one that just says instrument rack. We could rename it to, tech bass or whatever. And then we could save it by clicking here. But if we go to the next page in the PDF, what I like to do is put 000 in front of my presets. That way, they always rise to the top when I'm looking for my sounds. So I'll go ahead and hit this, and now it puts that sound there. And it's going to put it in your instrument rack instead of in your analog folder or whatever synth that you're using. So if you go into your instruments, instrument racks, and I have a number of different instruments here, but alphabetically, there we go, we've got our tech bass right there. So if I were to just search 000, it's much easier for me to find my own sounds. As you can see, in analog I got that, others, these are all my presets. If I go to drum racks, I've got my presets and kicks and snares. So this makes it really, really easy when you're searching for sounds to kind of block out everything except for what you've created and build your songs with this and so forth. So as you can see, that is much easier than opening and having to try to sort through all your presets, bass, pads, whatever sounds. You just automatically got your presets by searching 000. Now back over with the drum rack, we could do the same thing. This is all, as you can see, by clicking here on drum rack, it highlights all the different things that are inside. So we're pretty good with that. So if I click, I'm just going to call this test kit. And once again, I'll put 000 in front of it, and I'll save it. And let's see where it saves it. Okay, so it saves it in my drum rack, which is great. So now as you can see, when I open up my drum racks, it's pretty easily accessible. I don't have to go through all these different presets searching for the right sound because we've already made it. So if we go to the next page, you may be asking, okay, well, this is great. I can make some sounds with, from the presets and, kind of construct certain sounds to be similar to the style I'm going for. But some of the sounds just are not cutting it. And I need certain specific sounds that I'm not yet really good at creating. And in this process that we're going through, we're trying to do things quickly so that we can get from the beginning to the end of a song very quickly. Sound design is something that takes quite a bit of time, and I certainly encourage you to dive into it. And we may dive into it a little bit later. But what's important is if you're able to get the sounds you need right away, then do whatever you need to do that. And in this case, I recommend that besides just using presets, you could always hunt for sample packs that will give you a lot of really great sounds that are collected for a certain style of music. So if we come over here, if we were looking for tech house samples, I just simply typed in tech house sample packs, and a bunch came up here, and I'll show you what kind of popped up. So right here, first thing, loop masters. If we take a look here, we can see we've got all kinds of different sample packs that you can go through, and they each have kind of a, obviously a price, but they have a sample so you can listen to how their sounds work in context. So all those sounds, single hits and loops and everything put together, they create something that gets very close to a sound that you might already be looking for. So you could just kind of sample through the different packs, find which kind of sound characterizes a bit more of what you're going for. That could be a very quick way for you to get certain sounds, maybe pad sounds, maybe stabs, maybe certain hits, get your drum kits together and all that sort of thing pretty easily. So I would definitely recommend some of these sample packs because the creators have made a number of songs in this style and they really know the sound, and it really shortcuts your ability to make the songs that you want that are in your head. So I would highly recommend, grabbing a couple of these, and once again, even within these sample packs, kind of highlight the sounds that really work for you and disregard the ones that don't. You really always just want a small handful of sounds that you're working with to begin with. That way you can construct songs pretty quickly. There's also loads and loads of free kits as well. This right here, I believe is a free, yeah, here you go. Download the full sample pack here. Beatport also sells sample packs, so you can search it on Beatport. Function Loops, another free resource, so you can go to free samples and take a look at what's available here. And Sounds to Sample, I think these guys make some pretty great stuff as well. So you can definitely look through that, and once you're on the site, you can search for whatever it is that you're looking for. Some really great producers put together sample kits and sample packs that will really help your process. So I would definitely use that as a resource. I'm not saying use it as a crutch, but as you get started, this helped you develop your ear for what sounds good as well. By starting off using great sounds, you're kind of understanding the genre that you're going for as well, and how these sounds should sound individually. And if we run to our next page here, sampling other songs. This is, in this style of music, everyone borrows from everyone else. It's really not a big deal, to grab a kick or a snare or, a certain sound and then repurpose it for your own style. It's kind of like constructing a collage of sounds that pique your interest. So that's really easy as well. What I would do, I've kind of got a number of songs here, and I'm gonna create some audio tracks. And then I'm just gonna copy all these, come over to the arrangement window here, and paste it in. So I'll just simply drag each of these down to their own track. Just to kind of keep things close. And I don't have these songs warped or anything, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the grid. So you can do that by hitting Command 4. And as you can see, all those grids turn off. We'll just sample or solo one of these at a time. And we have our test kit here, right? So what we're going to do is I'll listen to this real quick and hear if there's any sounds that I want. Okay, great. So all these sounds are pretty good. So I could just highlight that, and then I'm going to hit Command E And now that creates its own little section, right? So what I can do now is hit back to the test kit, and then I can drag this right in. And now I've got that sound. And I can do the same with the other sounds as well. So I'll come back here. Highlight, test it. And now this one has kind of a little bit of a synth in there. So we're going to have to play with that just a little bit, but that's totally easy and fine. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag my samples here, and I'll show you a quicker trick. And let me... Great, I like that sound as well. And I'll go to my next track here, see what this has to offer. Sounds like right here it's a little bit cleaner. Yep. So I just want to grab just that kick right there. And I can just drag now. I don't even need to make the cut. See if I can snag that as well. It's kind of a kick and a snare, so we might want to take out some of the frequencies. And I'll just pop that there. That's a cool sound too. So as you can see, you could get some pretty good sounds on the intros of different tracks. All right, so now we got some sounds right here. There's a couple things that we might need to do. So we'll take these and we'll EQ them if they need to be. All right, that sounds good. That's good. Good. All right, so this right here, I think I just want that clap. So what I might do is come over here, put an EQ on there. And as you can hear, I get rid of that kick. So if I like that, the simple trick, I just right click, freeze it, right click again, and flatten it. There we go. And I'll just pop it back up here. And now all I got to do is highlight all these, go to my drum rack thing, and now I can just drag all of these. As you can see, it'll populate everything right into place. And if I take this off solo, we can hear these sounds. So this seems to have a little tail end that we might not want. So I'll just back that up. Good. So now we built a real quick kit. So that's a pretty simple approach to starting from scratch and building up a library of sounds that you can use and set up your presets in a way that are really easy to find. So on the next page, as I said, when you have sounds that are ready to go, fewer choices and easy access, you'll be able to work much more quickly on music. So as we work each day into our progress of creating an EP, this step here will make all the steps later that much easier for you. And then finally, on the next page, we get to our homework. So your homework is to create some presets for yourself with 000 named in front of them, and take a screenshot of those and send it over to me so that I know that you, one, understand how to do this, and two, are actually doing the work. And number two, pick 10 samples and really no more than that for each drum sound. So 10 kicks, 10 snares, 10 claps, etc., hi-hats, and a different set of sounds, and create one drum rack for each and save that as a new preset as well. So what I mean is, although you could kind of create these kits here the way that I did, and I encourage you do, you should also make kits that are, for example, just all kick drums or all snares or hi-hats. That way, when you're building your track, you could really simply just drag in your kit that just has kicks and very easily find the right sound, go on to the next thing, drag in your snare, find the right sound, and so forth. So as always, do your homework, and if you have any questions regarding today's lesson, make sure to email me, and I will be putting together a Q&A video to answer any remaining questions that might be holding you up from getting through this step. And with that said, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.